are coming out to join us tonight. My name is Tina Sherika, and I'm the president of Heritage Omaha. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. I see a lot of you have a bottle of water. If you haven't had the opportunity to grab food yet, please feel free to get up and grab something to eat. The restrooms are right here to my right, your left. And we just ask that if you could silence your cell phones when we're going through the workshop, that would be fantastic. But again, on behalf of the entire team at Heritage Omaha and our partners, Project for Public Spaces, thank you so much for coming out. So, you're all here to learn about an indoor year-round indoor public market right here in Omaha that we've been exploring the potential along with our partners. So, a little bit of background on who we are. Heritage Omaha is a nonprofit that is dedicated to developing philanthropic projects for the benefit of the entire community. You're going to hear a lot more from our friends at Project for Public Spaces, but we're very fortunate to have them as a partner on this initiative. They're known for developing incredible public markets across the country, but what makes them so special is they do that in partnership with the people that are going to use and live and work within these facilities. We've also been working with a handful of community partners, so I want to thank those of you that are here with us tonight for coming and being with us again on our Night 2 workshop. If you happened to catch the evening news last night, or maybe it wasn't even in the paper this morning, we did share the location of our potential location for the market right here at 8 and Farnham Streets. It's literally a block down here, so if you have some time after the workshop, we would encourage you to walk down and see that site. But it really is the perfect location if you think about its proximity to the incredible RiverFront Park, Heartland of America Park. It's right here located on the Orbit bus line as well as the future streetcar path. Plenty of public pedestrian walking spaces as well as parking. So we were able to secure that site thanks to some of our philanthropic supporters. And we know that this is going to be a space that, regardless of what comes as we go through this exploratory process, it'll be a public space or benefit the public in general. Now, before we get started and we introduce our friends from Project for Public Spaces, there's another special guest that's with us this evening. I think I see him here. And that's Vic Govin. Many of you may already know Vic. He has been a fixture in Omaha for more than 30 plus years. He is the founder of the Omaha Farmers Market. And up until his retirement, was it just last year or a couple of years ago? Retiring from managing the market, yes. Vic has been involved in these conversations for some time in Omaha, and he's bringing that same level of passion that he has given to the Omaha Farmers Market to the conversations that we're having in developing a vibrant market for Omaha. So Vic, would you like to come up and say a few words before?
Well, thank you, Tina, and thank all of you for coming and spending the next hour and a half with us to learn more about our potential plans, exploring for a year-round public market. Many of you know me either through the farmers market, where many years ago we were looking at establishing a public market on 10th Street. It was a 10th Street market. That didn't move forward. That was disappointing because we had so much intense interest in it, and that was like 13 years ago. But I consider that really our good luck that it didn't move forward for a variety of reasons. One is that we were struggling even to be able to raise the money just to be able to retrofit an old building, about 100 and some years old, that was built as a repair shop for a trolley barn, and that was a very difficult space to work with. So we were struggling for that. We wouldn't have probably had the operating money to make it as successful as we would have liked. And we thought South 10th Street was a good location, but when you look at this location, because since our plans for the 10th Street market in 2013, now, what an amazing space to have by the RiverFront Parks that's activated, and hundreds of thousands of people come down to the park. So we would benefit from that. And we have an organization in Heritage Omaha that really has been so successful of launching amazing projects such as the Luminarium. They're working on a new site for the Children's Museum and the park system, the whole RiverFront park system. So all the stars are aligning, I think, for a great opportunity. One other reason, by the way, I'm happy we didn't open in 2018 or 19 is because the pandemic hit right after that. And if you could imagine, you know, small businesses opening up and then having a pandemic and not being able to be open for a long time, that would have been hard. So the stars are aligned. You'll learn a lot today. You'll have a chance to ask some questions. Just keep in mind that we're looking for your input. This is an exploration for us at this point. We're at the very early stages. So thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kelly Verrill, and I'm the co-executive director of Project for Public Spaces, as Tina had mentioned us earlier. We're a nonprofit planning and design organization based in New York. And there's three of us here this evening. Kurt Wheeler, right here, is our program manager of our Market Cities program. We work in public markets around the country and in Canada primarily, but also around the world. And David O'Neill is one of the co-founders, actually, of our public markets program back in 1987, and is an international public market consultant. That's how we go to man about town. So we're really thrilled to be here. David and I were both involved in the 10th Street Market project, so pretty familiar with Omaha, and it's been really fun to come back again several years later and see all of the great projects that have been started and finished here and how successful it's been in reactivating the downtown. So we're excited about this. Just to give you a bit of a lay of the land of this evening, we're going to kick off with a presentation on what is a public market, essentially, what are the benefits, what does it mean for vendors to be in a public market, what are the qualities that we really make for a successful vendor. From there, the rest of our time is primarily going to be hearing from all of you, and we have a couple of different exercises that I'll explain later, so we can get some feedback from you and kind of understand a bit better of what you might be interested in as part of this project. And then we will have some next steps and wrap up for the evening. So I mentioned our organization already. We were founded in 1975, so we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And our work is primarily in public spaces. And what I mean by that are parks, plazas, main streets, transit hubs, museums, library front lawns, and of course public markets. And we really work with communities to strengthen, we work with people to strengthen their communities through those public spaces. Okay. We've worked around the world in 3,500 communities and as well as in all 50 U.S. states. So before my colleagues kind of dive deeper into the public market world with more kind of forms and benefits, I'd like to just start with sort of like a shared language. We use the term public market in our organization to mean an umbrella term that really captures all kinds of markets, everything from food and non-food markets, open air markets like your farmers markets, all the way up to your big permanent indoor market halls. So that word to us does not mean a type. It's like the whole, all of the types. What's really important to us, though, is that it meets these three elements here. For us, a public market must have public goals, so it has to have community impact. That can be economic opportunity for small micro businesses. That can mean creating active public space, providing increased public health, a variety of different impacts, but it's really important that markets have that. The second is that they operate in public space so that they're welcoming, inclusive spaces for the entire community, and that they serve locally owned and operated businesses. And this is truly what stands them apart from other retail, is that they're very focused locally on local businesses and really serving the local community in that way. The three kind of foundations of a successful market are really rooted in the people, the product, and the place. And so you all kind of represent that product area over there. It's like really about like who every vendor is incredibly important individually and then as a whole. And what's really also important is the products that you're bringing. So that's obviously like almost like the foundation of all of this. But of course, you need somebody to sell these products to, right? So those are the people that come and interact with you, the community that shops at the market and really like begins to love and adore these markets and feel loyal to them, and make them eventually feel like they're a part of the civic infrastructure of the community. And then finally, the place. We're a public space organization. It matters to us where these markets are located, how they function, what they feel like, and how well they work for the vendors and for the customers. So taking that all together is what really are the keys to a successful public market. And with that, I am going to hand it over to David to dive deeper into those.
Hi, everybody. Dick said the stars are aligned, right? So it's a good time, better than 10 years ago. Well, the real stars are you, right? If the vendor situation is off kilter, it ain't gonna work. You guys are really what it's all about. So the success of the market, the place is important. You now know where the proposed location is. We met with the community last night. We heard what they like, but you're the ones that really need to make it work, needs to work for you to make it work. So, well, how many of you are selling in a market now? Most of you, but not everybody. Okay, so you know the market that you're selling in. There's a lot of different types of markets here, and the oldest, the simplest form of market is just where some people would come together informally to sell something and some customers would show up. And an old definition for our market, I think, is 3 women and a goose. Like, you know, 1 goose, 3 customers, you get the price thing going, and then, you know, the next day, the vendor figures out, I'll bring 2 gooses tomorrow, and then another vendor shows up, and the market kind of grows from there. And those basic building blocks of the open air market are still the same, and they've really got big. We are really in a golden age of markets. They're coming back everywhere, and they're growing, and people really like them in this corporate world to have the human connection, the local human connection that builds community. You've got some nice markets here. The good one is in Cedar Rapids, and that's not the only market in either of those towns. And then, as markets mature, sometimes, not always, they want something a little more infrastructure, a little more permanence, a little more protection from the elements, so they'll put a roof over their head. And it can be a very simple form of shelter. It can be something that you can take down, or it can be something permanent. This is the Fulton Street Market in Grand Rapids, and I think this is a nice shed, but the first shed was this ramshackle wooden thing, and then it was a little bigger. They raised the roof and so forth and so on over the years, and they've gotten to this point where they're very nice. Has anyone been to that market? No? Okay, well, time for a road trip. The one on that side, that's in Philadelphia, that's a market left over from the colonial days when every city had markets. There were no supermarkets. That's where everybody shopped. Little Rock, Arkansas, that's a fairly new market. They have 2 sheds behind an indoor year-round public market. And those sheds can be used for other things when there's not a market. From somebody just getting out of the rain to they have car shows there. They have all sorts of program events there over the course of the year. The next, moving up the evolutionary scale, is like, oh, this covered market's doing pretty good. Actually, we'd like to do it year-round. Let's put some walls on it. And at the Fiddly Market in Cincinnati, with that shed, that was originally an open-air market. Then they built the shed. Then they enclosed the shed. And there it is today. It's kind of undergoing a renaissance there. And then the market hall is the next thing up, that enclosed shed. You get plumbing, you get electricity, you have permanent stalls where you can put infrastructure in there to store things, for better display capability, for lighting, for signage. The Milwaukee Public Market was just one, according to the readers of the USA Today newspaper, they said it's the best market in the United States. That's about 20 years old. We just had our International Public Market Conference there. It was a very nice show of people from Omaha that came to that conference. And it's 2 floors, or it's a full market floor, a small basement, and they have a mezzanine upstairs with a display kitchen, and they have events up there, and a little bit of storage in the basement. They said if the basement was bigger, it would be better, that there's demand for storage. This is a historic market in Columbus, Ohio, the North Market. This is probably its 5th or 6th generation over about 150 years, and now they're going through their 7th iteration. They're expanding the market again, and they're co-locating with a mixed-use high-rise office building with apartments, hotel, and offices, and 350 parking spaces. And that's got, the outdoor shed for farmers, and when farmers aren't there, it's just covered parking for customers. And the most mature form of the market is the market district, which has all the components that I mentioned before, and then some. This is an example up in Winnipeg. I don't know if any of you have been there, but it's another road trip that might be worth taking. There's a better view of the district. Oops. So it's 14 acres. This was a rail, industrial kind of a rail situation that is no longer there. It is repurposed. It's at the confluence of the Red and the Assiniboine rivers. It's a very old site. There have been archaeological excavations there. It's been active with indigenous people in Canada, First Nations as they call them, for over 6,000 years. So today it houses a theater, a children's museum, a park, a public market, a hotel, a human rights museum, and a nice connection to the waterfront. I'm leaving some things out, but you get the idea of the market district. And the markets was 2 rail lines that were repurposed as the public market. And there's the market up on the upper side. It's the Human Rights Museum. And one of the great attractions at the market is they have a tower. So the kids and adults too, they like to come down, and you can get up high and you can see across the river, you can see the town, you can look down at people, and you can see if you can actually make it to the top, climb all the way up. That's the most mature form, and there aren't that many of them. So I'm going to hand this over to Kirky, where benefits of markets.
Good. Hi, everyone. So Kelly mentioned how public markets have public goals. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different benefits of markets. So Project for Public Spaces has done tons of research over many decades to identify kind of these 6 core benefits. So kind of 6 reasons that most markets have, or most markets have at least one of these reasons to exist. So markets create active public space, they strengthen social cohesion, they renew downtowns and neighborhoods, link urban and rural economies, provide economic opportunity, and promote public health. So most markets can achieve all of these, but most tend to kind of focus in on 1 or 2 of these just to ensure that they can focus their attention and resources, but they can certainly hit on all of these. So I'll walk through some examples of each. So the first is renew downtowns and neighborhoods. This is the Slow Market in San Luis Obispo, California. And it's a weekly evening market on Thursday nights in downtown. And it brings tons of foot traffic down there. And all of the surrounding storefront businesses get a lot of additional business during those market days. So the outdoor vendors are really complementary. They're not in competition with the storefront businesses. So it really benefits the whole area and brings a lot of attention to the area. All Markets strengthen social cohesion. So markets are really inherently social. Oh no, I'm gonna go back to the screen. There we go. So they're inherently social spaces. That's mostly from vendors interacting with customers, but then vendor-to-vendor dynamics are also an important part of that kind of energy created by markets. So it's a great way to connect with neighbors across socioeconomic, ethnic, racial divides. And it turns out that it's a really important part of why people choose to shop at markets. So this is a chart from a nationwide survey that was put out of market customers in the early 2000s. And the response to the question, why do you shop at your local market? The number one response was it brings people together. So people really want to go to the market to interact with their neighbors and vendors. Markets create active public space. So they can be really flexible community spaces used for all types of things. So this is a good example from of an indoor market that is set up different ways at 2 different times. So on the left, it's public seating and tables, and then all of that can be removed to host a pop-up temporary market, bringing in new vendors, day tables, and then they can leave it and go back to public seating. And successful markets become seen as venues to host events and all types of programming. So on the left, that's Nuvo's City Market in Cedar Rapids. They have a huge outdoor space they call the Market Yard adjacent to it. They have tons of people come for performances, music events, and it drives a lot of foot traffic inside for vendors. So it's a big benefit. As well as the Midtown Bull Market in Minneapolis has an annual Kwanzaa celebration. And again, these are really beneficial to the community, but they're also really helpful to the vendors because it's bringing new people to the market who maybe haven't been there before and might return and become loyal customers. Markets link rural and urban economies. So this one really relates to farmers markets, but it certainly relates to indoor permanent markets as well. But rural farmers and producers come into the city to get a density of customers. They're then able to kind of take that economic benefit back to their communities. Customers in the cities are able to access products they wouldn't be able to get otherwise and also connect with their rural neighbors. So it's a nice symbiotic relationship. Markets promote public health. So a lot of markets certainly offer fresh, nutritious food, which promotes health, but a lot of them also offer health services on site. Some through kind of temporary pop-up clinics, and others actually have permanent infrastructure, permanent clinics. So this is the Flint, Michigan Farmers Market, and they have a permanent pediatric clinic on the upper level. So folks, while they're shopping, can also pop up for appointments. Other programming could include cooking demos using nutritious foods from the market, which is a good way to kind of promote products that are being sold in the market. Other fun fitness and wellness programming. Again, great way to get new people into the market. And then, of course, they provide economic opportunity for vendors. So this is a really important part of the market, as we know. Vendors are very important to the market, and it's a great way for new businesses to get their start. So it's a really low investment, low stake opportunity to try out an idea. It, in most cases, costs less to rent a stall than it does to rent a storefront in an urban area. And often markets provide a lot of different opportunities, whether it's a day table, very temporary basis, or more built out permanent infrastructure. So you can kind of find the right fit for where you are in your kind of business evolution. And most communities have lots of local organizations already doing community programming that could be a really good fit for the market. So whether that's existing small business support services or other classes, they can utilize the market to the benefit of the vendors as well as other folks in the community, or just putting on other fun and programming for customers to, again, keep people coming back week after week.
there's a fundamental difference between operating a market business versus operating a storefront business. You can do, and the trick is to do as much business as you can in as small a space as possible. And the market opportunities are a very important door that opens up for growth. If you have a market business right now in a stall, really the opportunity is to go get a storefront. And the storefront might be, 20 by 60, 1,500 square feet. At a market, you can look at 100 square feet, 200 square feet, 300, you can move up comfortably to suit your very specific needs for doing business in the market. And there's also growth opportunity over time. It is not uncommon in a market after, so many years to expand once, twice, three. I've seen people expand 6 or 7 times in a market. And it's always, so that kind of opportunity is not available in the traditional retail world. So this model has worked for thousands of years, markets, right? We kind of lost the market connection, but it's coming back, and we're just seeing like extraordinary growth in the market world because it works for vendors and because it works for customers, bringing people together. So we could talk about this all day long, but the low cost, and you don't have to rent a full-time stall. You can just come in for a day or a week or a month or seasonally, see if you like it, change your product line, come back again, see if you like it, maybe not come back, or maybe start off with something permanent. And you're pooling your resources. So when you pay rent into the market, it goes into a pool of operating expenses to pay for the management, for the maintenance of the building, and for, probably most importantly, for promotion. So if you're just spending like, $100 by yourself to promote, and you're not going to go too far, but if you're pooling the 100 together, you can have a much greater impact, even than the numbers of vendors yourselves. And you're sharing your customers. So if you're bringing in customers and you're bringing in somebody, they're in the market and their eyeballs are looking at everybody else. So that's another growth opportunity that you don't get in traditional retail. And then you guys, you love giving each other advice too, right? Like, well, I think you should be doing that. So there's all that informal vendor-to-vendor advice, as well as the camaraderie of working alongside other people rather than working in your little storefront. You close the door, there are no customers, and you're just sitting there all by yourself. And then the internal competition, and I'll talk about that again. That's so important in the market. So this is a very quick kind of 10 things about what makes a market good. Like that lady, look at the attention that she is giving to every egg. So quality is not just the product itself, it is the consistency of the quality. And it's the relationship. And this is not even spoken, but customers can tell if you're paying attention to your quality. And by doing that, it's like saying, I care about you. I care about your health. I'm selling you something that's hopefully going to make your life better, your body healthier. Extremely important. And then the merchandising is called stall keeping. All of the things that you have to do during the day. There's nothing worse for me anyway, I think for most customers, than you see someone behind the counter, they're on a cell phone, they're not even paying attention to you, and the customer comes in and it's like, oh, what do you want? So constantly keeping that the stall active, attractive, and keeping a very accessible vibe, very comfortable, approachable vibe with your customers. And services, just those little moments, even how you give someone change, and the little contact, the eye contact, the hand-to-hand contact is very much remembered, is very much felt and appreciated by the customers. And it doesn't cost anything to do this kind of thing right. It's just an attentiveness, a consideration for people that are giving you money, that are keeping you in business, paying your bills. And the pricing, you know, not just competitive pricing, but clear pricing. If things aren't priced, people get nervous, they think I'm not gonna be able to afford it, they don't wanna ask, and then in the market, there's so many other opportunities to buy something, they're just gonna keep walking. And you're missing an opportunity by not thinking about the pricing of, here we go. And the displays. People buy with their eyes. So the prices are important, your signage is important, your lighting is important, but it's that very quick visual input. Who knows what goes on in people's minds in a very short period of time before they decide to buy something. So the visual appeal is very important. And it's not just the visual appeal when a customer is right in front of your stall, but when they're coming down the aisle, when they first see you, what do they see? Because by the time they get to you, they might be looking at the next stall down the way. So really thinking about the visual appeal is important. And if you don't like people, you probably shouldn't be even here tonight. So it's so human intensive. You really have to like people. And if you don't like people, you better be a good actor and fake like you like people. And it's so easy to smile. So easy to, and you know, if you like people, it just makes your day easier anyway. You're gonna have a better day. It's this whole mindset of being in a marketplace that you're just on all the time. And the promotions, and individually, you can certainly do promotions. You're encouraged to do things on your own, but that pooled resource and the pooled promotional funds for the market are very, very important. Constantly promoting it. It's more competitive. You guys know it's more competitive than ever out there. Nobody needs to go shopping anymore. You can just stay home and get up, on your computer and get whatever you want. So the experience of the market is a trump card that nobody else has in the retail world like a market does. So you really, really want to play that up constantly. This is right now, right? Let's get 7. No competitiveness, right? Okay. This is also, I mentioned competition before. A lot of you guys are in markets. I know it would be nice to have a monopoly with no competition. But if you want a monopoly, buy the board game. Don't open up in a market. It's really what makes the world go round in the market. It ups your game, it ups your competitor's game, and the customer is the beneficiary, and that's the dynamic. That's why markets have lasted for thousands of years, that internal competition. So going into a market, expect competition, appreciate the competition, and use that competition to your advantage. And don't think it's a detriment to operate in a market. It's actually a very positive thing. And I know it's hard sometimes, and it can be very frustrating sometimes, and they're copying me, and that was my idea, but it's okay. It's okay. There's promotions, the innovation. So, what's another great thing about markets is that you're not in some corporate office and you get the monthly report. No, like, people were buying blue jeans or people were buying salsa last month, but you're getting that immediate feedback, so you can be thinking all the time, well, these are my staples, this is good, this is my money maker, I don't need to change that, but I see this is going down, I gotta move something here. It's prone to fashion, right? Like if you're selling clothing, like you constantly have to be keeping up, and food is really becoming the same way in a lot of different ways. So innovation is good for you. It is expected by the customers. Even if you're innovating with things that people don't like, your customers see that you're innovating so that they think, oh, this is good. They're thinking, they're not just sitting around thinking that everything's going to be as good yesterday as it will be tomorrow. Always be thinking ahead and doing things for your customers. So the 3-second rule is the markets for thousands of years are basically built on the size of the human body. So an average market stall is about this big, 6 to 8 feet. You can rent 2 stalls, 3 stalls, or 4 stalls. But when people are walking through a market, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, they walk, at 2 miles an hour or something like that. And by the time they get to your stall, you don't even have 3 seconds. Everything that you're doing, what you're selling, your look, your vibe, your freshness, your pricing, your competitiveness, all of that has to be available to go into your customer's brain, up, into the decision-making mechanisms up there, and it all happens very quickly, and I can't possibly explain it, but you know what I'm talking about. So that the clarity of your offering has to be understood in a very short, very quick period of time. And here's just one example. 2 people selling the same thing. They're selling oysters. One person got it together. You know exactly, you don't have to ask any question. And the other person selling oysters, you can't see the oysters, you can't see the prices, you don't know what's going on. You might stop, you might not, but they are missing a lot of business opportunity because they are not playing the 3-second role very well. So these are all very interesting categories. You can go on and on, but just some things to think about. That immediacy, that sensuality, that quick messaging in the market is very important for you to think about. So that wraps up our side of the equation.
Yeah, that's right. So now we'd like some time to hear from all of you. We're really early, as Tina was saying, we're really early in the stage of all of this, and this is in fact our very first opportunity to really meet with folks that are interested in potentially vending through this market. So we have created some boards over here on this kind of hallway area that we'd like you to engage with. Just actually click ahead here. Around on the tables, you should see 5 round colored dots. Everybody should have a set of those stickers. And what we're gonna get some feedback on from all of you right now on these boards over here is we'd like to get a sense from all of you of what your preferred uses and activities that would happen in the market would be. We'd like to understand better what the preferred amenities, what are the kinds of things that will be important to make sure that are built into the market or available to people to use in the market. And then for you specifically, we're interested in the kind of vending opportunity. Now, of course, it's just a dot. You're not married to that forevermore, but it's to help us get a sense of what kind of opportunity are folks looking for this evening. Is it more temporary? Is it indoor? Is it outdoor? Is it more permanent? Are you looking to cook in a stall, in a permanent stall indoors? So you'll see those over on the boards over here, and we'd like to just get a sense from each of you. So you have 5 dots, and the kind of instructions for this is that there's 3 boards, one for each of these. I'd like for you to select only 2 for the first 2 board. Oh, sorry, I guess the order is that it's I have to think about this. So the order is a little flipped. So the first board over here is vending opportunities, and so just 1 dot for that. So you have 4 choices. Please just put 1 dot. Again, nobody's going to watch you and say 3 years from now that you put that dot in the wrong place and we're going to hold you to it. It's not a lease. It's just an idea. And then the next 2 boards are the amenities and uses and activities. And for those, you'll have the 4 remaining dots. We'd like you to use 2 for the amenities and 2 for the uses and activities. And what that will do, you'll see there's multiple choices. It's just to get you to prioritize your top 2. So ideally, you're going to only pick 2 uses and activities and 2 amenities, just so we can have a sense of what you're most interested in. And we'll come back to these later on and kind of all report back out on what you all decided you would like to see. And then finally, at the end, is another board that's just blank. There's some Post-its and some pens. And we're just asking if you didn't see anything on these boards that reflect what you're envisioning for this opportunity, to please write those notes down on the Post-it notes and to put them up on that board. So we're going to have about 10 minutes for this. We'll give you a little bit more time if we need it. And then we have another exercise to follow. So this is just the first half of this. So I'm going to let you, I'll keep track and I'll give like a 5 or 7 minute warning. But if we can all grab our stickers and make our way over to the hall, and if you have any questions, we'll be here to help you with that. What are your hopes and wishes for a vibrant public market here in Omaha? And what are your issues and concerns for bringing a public market to Omaha? So the way this is going to work is if each table could decide somebody who's willing to write down the group's ideas for these 2 questions. And then we're going to need one person from each table to report out at the end. We're going to do some quick report outs from all of you so you can hear each other's ideas. So each table needs one person to write and one person to report out. You can decide that amongst yourselves, but I'll hold you to it. And yeah, I mean, take 10 minutes now, give or take. I'll keep an eye on my clock. And amongst yourselves, like maybe think about it a little bit yourself, but also talk with your friends at your table. What are your hopes and wishes, and what are your concerns and issues for this? And jot them down, and then we'll do some report outs. Table's going to go from table to table, as I said. For each table, if somebody is willing to be the reporter, we're going to give each table 2 minutes to report out. You don't have to literally say everything. We're going to collect all of these at the end of the night. So don't worry about that, but just a kind of synthesis of your table's hopes and wishes and issues and concerns.
You have 2 minutes.
Starting now.
So our hopes and wishes that we came up with Pete to, we were hoping that it would be accessible during the first weather, rain, snow, what have you, so it could stay around. We would hope that the community would have their full engagement with us and getting it started all the way through the end. Variety of vendors, not just all vegetables or all necklaces or what have you. Fresh produce, fresh products, bringing it daily, fresh stuff that can't be offered at a grocery store. Water stations we had for, refreshment. Pet friendly for those with pets, people who love to bring their whole family, including their pets. Child friendly as well. We also would like to, our hopes and wishes would to see some entertainment. live entertainment, whatever the community would like. Also, hot food vendors, prepare food on site, not just in the food truck format. And we would also look for like a broad marketing campaign for the market itself to reach further and let our press good. And also a first aid station. Yes, a safety. For our issues and our concerns, this is for the vendors, correct? The issues and concerns of the vendors and the customers. I guess. So parking is a huge one. I've been to other large markets where parking is the issue. And I have a friend who actually lives in the neighborhood, and parking is an issue for them too, because they live in the neighborhood. Let's see, expense and affordability of likely stall rental, any payments for the vendors that they would have to.
You can go faster.
Okay. Advertising, and then accessibility. We have security, seasonal access, again, for variety. If there are any liquor or any licenses that needed to be obtained by the vendors, power and water, restrooms. Okay, and then the common area maintenance, like who is going to handle that and how is that taken care of. Sustainability and hours of operation.
All right, thank you so much. All right, next. Also, if you've already heard yours, you can just sort of do like a quick +1 to whatever that is. So,
Okay, we had, for issues and concerns, the selection of the vendors who would be picked, what's the timeline of this actual project, the location, we figured it was hard finding a place to park to get here, so how do we do that for multiple vendor or customers? You see the possibility of taking business away from other markets here downtown, and then what foot traffic would look like in the winter. And then the affordability, as they said, the fees for the vendors. Could they do a community commercial kitchen for the hot foods, restrooms, and then storage would be shared storage. I'll read them. Oh, yeah, we'll keep it moving.
thank you.
All right, well, we want to make sure that it's a pleasant place for people to gather, that it is weatherproof. There is no shelter here from the rain in the park at all. We want it to be welcoming to everybody. We want like a diversity of the products available. We want it to reflect the cultural makeup of the park, which is very, very diverse. We want to make sure that it's affordable. And then our concerns are any accessibility issues. There are some areas of handicapped accessibility in the park which were not done well. I'm going to make sure it's safe for pedestrians because 8th Street is a real issue. It needs to be redone for pedestrian safety. And that's just all also if people's input could be given at every stage of it, including after it's made.
Anybody on the table? Okay, thank you very much. Great stuff. You guys ready?
I feel like nervous all the time. We do have a lot of the same things. So I think some of the things that our table hoped for as vendors was like obviously sales, but then like the opportunity for more brand recognition was what somebody mentioned. We were wondering, you know, we've kind of heard that you could pop in for a day, but like, what does that mean in terms of like fridge space or accessibility to maybe a chilled truck that would be out in the parking lot? Another hope and dream is sustainability in design of the space was what my vision is and what I'm hoping to be part of the conversation with whoever is going to be involved in the design of the space to incorporate you know, reusability and stuff like that, but we can get into those details. And then when I mentioned sustainability, somebody else mentioned like sustainability in terms of
you know, is this going to be a draw at the beginning, but then how do we keep it a draw and keep people excited about it and coming? So let's see, issues and concerns, definitely the leasing cost. I think I was kind of hoping, I know it's super early, but maybe some kinds of ideas on the cost. I had heard that when this tried to get going about a decade ago, that I know cost for vendors was a huge concern. And parking, accessibility, what kind of building is in the dreams of people planning this, like to protect us from the elements and to help customers get there. And then also the space, even though it's a beautiful space, is there room to grow and expand in that space is a concern we have. Anything else? Oh, a hope and wish is that it's pet friendly. Yeah, of course.
All right, first with our issues, parking, accessibility for all. Is the marketing going to be sustained? Our big push in the beginning, absolutely, but what about, 10 years out? What's that going to look like? Who's going to maintain and curate the vendors, making sure it's a good ecosystem and it doesn't kind of swing to the craft show year-round? So a lot of gutter vendors and such. What is the expense going to be? In 2035, when the CWS contract is potentially up, what could that look like from a traffic? Drawing people consistently, especially outside of the May or October season, and people from outside of just the downtown area. I think that's probably the biggest target, is those who are not moving into these condos, but what about the rest of town? Dogs, we all want plenty of dogs around for sure. And then who's going to be in charge of maintaining the facilities, the grounds themselves? And for our hopes and dreams, of course, we hope that it is very, very busy, full of fresh food, freshly cooked food as well. Are we going to have that really good marketing that we know that certain people are involved in and have that reputation for? Is this going to be a true public space and not just for a few certain privileged businesses? How are we going to connect those farmers and the public markets themselves? What kind of program can be in place for really connecting those, especially if we have some people at our table here? Locally made products, not things that are shipped in. I've got an issue with certain markets where there are products that is not available in this part of the country or in this season that is currently sold in some markets. Bring the people we know that why we can put on a really good show to the audience. And then we would like to see a lot of events in the space and then truly radically inclusive of all.
Hello. So, hopes and wishes are a good social media team for it, just to make sure that we can market it with TikTok and Instagram being the way that my generation shops. A busy and successful all-year market because around November to May is like the slow season for many. Customer replaces the grocery store, like a lot of big cities do that. Adequate parking, all the staples, so a wide selection of all the products. Good retention of customers, and then a system for pickup and pre-orders. So like online access, and then they can do like a hub or something they can do pickup or drive up if they don't want to come in because of the weather or whatever else. National success collaborations. So just like with bigger companies that have really big customer bases that can help them bring it in, and then a good waste management system. And then for issues and concerns, we have cost of permanent spot as well as temporary spot. What is the promotion look like in marketing, accessibility for load in and load out, foot traffic, and then target customer, who would that be, local or touristic, how would we bring them in?
Last but not least,
I'm not sure we have anything new, but we can go down. So hopes and wishes, equal opportunities for new vendors over time especially, so that there's always new vendors, because that would even positively impact the people who have been there forever, just something new and fresh. Free parking while open for the customers and the vendors, or at least, a certain area. Vendor input on the build-out process, or they said throughout the whole process, but especially like how should things be situated, I guess. Limit the non-food vendors and make sure to include groceries and fresh food, we've heard that already. And then issues and concerns, the effect on area farmers markets, not only the customer attendance, but participation from vendors, and that being, I don't know, a distraction or whatever. And then logistics for vendors, so what does set up and tear down look like, physical access to their space, storage, and then security for their goods.
Great, lots of consistency, really great. As I said, please leave these on your table, and we're going to make sure to capture all of it, and also put taking notes when we're recording out. So thank you to all of you for that. We want to give you a sense of the boards and what the results were for that. So let's pull those over. And we have first. This is our amenities and features. All right, not going to count because that would be boring for you, but I'm going to eyeball it. We will count, don't worry. So it's looking like indoor public space and seating, and as well as outdoor seating is a real close second. So making sure that the customers have a lot of public space to hang out, enjoy whatever they're purchasing, gather with family and friends. And of course, we know that the longer people want to be in that market, the more money they're going to spend, right? So that's not too surprising. Oh, I also wanted to mention that I think it's really funny that so many of you want this to be a pet-friendly space, because last night was the community workshop, and there were a lot of anti-pet people. So, a real divide here. All right, great. So, yeah, good. We've got, I see the little dogs up there, and also at that door.
You guys can
All right, so now this is the activities. Let's see. Oh, goodness. Yes, I've heard of the eyeball. Maybe concerts and performances. But close, kind of top 3 concerts and performances, temporary pop-up markets. I think somebody said, yeah, that was really good. There was a couple of mentions of keeping it fresh in the sense of having opportunities for new vendors to come in, so it kind of always feels new to community members and customers. So temporary pop-up markets are really great ways to do that. And themed events, cultural events, which is great. Yes, I mean, this should be really a new civic space for the community to gather and to celebrate what makes Omaha special. And everybody who makes it special, so that's great. All right, and then types of vending opportunities. Let's see what this group is interested in here. So a lot of interest in the permanent indoor stall with on-site food prep, great. Followed by permanent stalls, just regular permanent stalls indoor, like we see here with this cheese vendor here. And then temporary stalls indoor, just a few with the outdoor as well. Great, that's very helpful for us. And, very early stages, it's very helpful for us to get a sense of what is so that's helpful. Thank you for sharing that feedback there. Just gives us a better sense of what people are interested in terms of the infrastructure of the space. All right, and then we had just a few extra ideas. They're probably, I'm guessing, that have been part of the host of issues and concerns, but sorry for blocking. Include other able bodies, inclusion in the space as well. We heard that, so that's great. Making sure there's produce. Somebody said they recently visited a market that didn't have any vegetables, so making sure that there's produce. We heard a lot of people saying it's important that there's fresh food at this market. Shared storage. 4-day and permanent vendors, great, yes. We always say you can never, ever, ever, ever have enough storage. So that's good. You can never have too much storage. Yeah, I'm tired. Make sure you include small farmers and accessibility to the public. Great, and then, all right, the last one going on for this one. Thank you for preparing, that's next, I don't have to thank myself publicly. Okay, information, this is actually a good segue. Would love more information on the timeline for the project, the cost of fees for rent, leases, if any. What would it look like to accept vendors? Like what might that process be for accepting the vendors that will be on the market? And then that kind of mix, that product mix, what's the proportion that's going to be between your farmers, your local artists, your cottage food, for those of you who don't know what that is, like your value added, jams, jellies, sauces, and such. So great questions, great concerns, things that we're thinking about. It's helpful to know that you are also thinking about. So thank you for all of this. All right, well, thank you again. As I said, we're gathering all this information. We're still doing
Excellent input, by the way.
very helpful.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you have a timeline? It was misleading when I was filling the survey. I thought it was something that was coming out soon, but there's nothing that is going to be 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. Can you please tell us more or less?
Of course, we don't have a firm timeline, but of course our hope would be in the next couple of years, yes. So we're still in the exploratory phase, obviously, that's why all of you are here tonight, collecting that feedback. And that's going to inform how we actually make you, I'm sorry. That's going to inform the next steps as we go into a design phase for this project. But stay tuned. So I know I heard a lot of you ask for what's next, more information. Our website, OmahaRiverFront.market.org. This is going to be your primary source for updates, so stay tuned, check that out. The surveys that you've seen out and about town are going to be available through July 9th. We're trying to get lots of community input. We would like it if you would share it with all of your contacts. And then just the more responses we get, the more we're going to be able to move forward in the development of what this market would look like for Omaha. And again, that website's going to be that home base for making sure that we can get information to you in a timely manner. When you registered for the workshop, you also provided your email addresses, so stay tuned for email communications from us as well. So this is something that's really important to us. It's a priority. I promise you're going to hear a lot. The survey results, like I said, it's open through the end of July, or between the end of July, early August, is when they're going to really be compiling all of the data we collected. So before the end of August, you're going to be hearing a lot more from us.
And we hope to hear more from you. This is
Yes.
the beginning, this is not.
Yeah, it is the beginning, yes. So we're going to provide more opportunities, and I promise, I have a lot of the concerns I heard too, is we're going through some of our planning meetings, everything you expressed are the same things that we're talking about around the table. So rest assured, we hear you, and we're going to continue listening.
And the people are going to stick around.
Yes, oh, thank you. And we're going to stick around. So, Kurt, Kelly, and David, thank you for coming in, David, as well as the Heritage team here if you'd like to ask us any questions directly. So thank you all so much for coming